So, since I am about 3/4 of the way through Emma, I decided I would make this first video talking about Jane Austen and what I think of her now that I'm almost halfway through all of her books. I've read, or will have read Emma. Hopefully I can finish that soon. I've read Sense and Sensibility, and I've read Pride and Prejudice 3 times now, so I just wanted to talk about that and my experience so far. I have my notes on this whiteboard right here, so I might be referring to this a few times, so bear with me here. I read my first Jane Austen book in high school, as most people do. You read Pride and Prejudice usually in high school in, I don't know what English class it is, but it's one of the English classes in high school. And I actually liked it. I don't think I fully appreciated it, but I liked it in high school. It was one of the few books they made us read that I actually enjoyed. And then in college, I was just bored. It was like a weekend, and I didn't have anything to do. And I was on Amazon Prime, maybe? Prime Video. And I saw that I don't know if they still do. I don't know if, or maybe it was Hulu. I can't remember. I saw the movie, and I was like, I read that in high school. This looks really good, just from like a cinematic point of view. And I watched the 2005 version with Keira Knightley and Matthew McFadden, which I love. I still love that version. And I was like, ooh, I forgot how much I liked this story. I forgot how much I enjoyed this story. Still, don't think I fully comprehended it. Don't think I fully appreciated it for what it was. But then, I don't know, when I bought my copy of Pride and Prejudice, I bought a copy of it at some point at a later date. And I reread it, and I really liked it. And I've just loved that story ever since. And so when I got back into reading last year, I was like, I think I want to read more of Jane Austen, because I really enjoyed Pride and Prejudice. What make her stories so interesting to me is her characters obviously are very well developed. Her social commentary, so the way she kind of pokes fun at the society she lived in, which was the Regency era in England, is just masterful. It's so funny, and she's witty, and it's funny. Like, if you really read it, not just to get through it, but read it to enjoy it, she's funny to me. I don't know. So that's the big picture, and that's how I got into reading Jane Austen. Sorry, I'm holding a marker. I've been coloring. And yeah, let's see. I bought a coloring book, so I've been coloring. I'm gonna go in descending order of my favorites. So I've not finished Emma, but she's gonna be number 3. So I'm not finished with it, but I can already tell that it's not my favorite. Not that it's not good. I have enjoyed it. I'm referring to my notes here. What I love the most about this is you really see Emma's growth over the course of the book. Because she is so solitary, she is so confined. She doesn't have, the entire Bennet family, all of those sisters like Lizzie running around talking to her all the time. It's just her and her father. who's not in great health and friends in town, but she's largely solitary, in a sense. And you get to see a lot of her inner world and the way her mind works and the growth. Even, I'm not even to the end yet, but the growth is really good. Her story and her arc so far have felt very real. Like, girl, I get you. It has a lot to do with romance because Miss Emma is trying to play matchmaker with all of her friends. But she isn't interested in romance, or so she thinks. She's not interested. She's kind of tricking herself into thinking she's not interested in romance, but it is less centered around her being in love or not in love with someone. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it doesn't feel as much of a romance as the others do. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but I really have enjoyed it, and I've laughed and giggled. There's a lot of like town gossip and, just a young girl. It's my dryer. There's a lot of young girls being young girls, and I think that's really cute. But it also shows, like, over the course of the book, like, especially Emma's growth as a person, which is always good to see. It's almost like a coming of age in a way. She's growing up and she's learning more about the world and how things actually work, and not how things work inside of her brain. Like, she's kind of a know-it-all at the beginning of the story, and she finds out that reality is not always how she thinks it's going to be. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's cute. I like it. I enjoy it. I'm excited to finish it. I did watch the 2009 BBC series. This is a funny thing I like to do. I like to watch an adaptation that I know to be fairly true to the book before I read the book, so that way I'm familiar with the story and I don't get lost in all of the language from that time period, and I can follow the story and enjoy the writing style. So I watched the 2009 BBC miniseries of Emma. It was good. I enjoyed it. And so I know what happens already, but the fun of reading an Austen book isn't necessarily plot twist at the end. That's not really what Jane Austen is best at. So that's a fun little trick I like to do. If you struggle getting through like a Jane Austen, watch an adaptation and then read the book, and sometimes that makes it easier to follow. Alright, next up, Sense and Sensibility. I've already showed y'all in another video this edition, which I think is gorgeous, and I got at Marshall's for $10, so yay me. Let's see, what did I like about this one? I loved the relationship between Marianne and Eleanor, which they're sisters, if you don't know. Marianne and Eleanor are the two female main characters, and they're sisters. And I enjoyed their relationship with each other. I also enjoyed how Jane Austen used them to show the other's strength and weakness, if that makes sense. So Eleanor is sense and Marianne is sensibility. So that's where the title comes from. Basically, Eleanor is a model of restraint and self-control, even through really difficult times. Marianne is a depiction of like passion versus restraint in basically every area of their lives, and especially in the romance department. So it was a nice, like, the way they played off of each other, but also throughout the story how they learned from each other. And how at the end they're both the same. Like, they're both Marianne and Eleanor, and they have the same personality, but they're a little bit closer in personality than they were at the beginning because of everything that they went through in the story. So they taught each other a lot, which I think is what I could just go turn it off, but I don't want to. I think that's what sisters are for. I don't have a sister, but I have close friends who are like sisters, and that is very true. Like, you can be completely opposite ends of the spectrum on things, but you can sometimes see things through their perspective, and it teaches you something that maybe you need to work on and adapt in your life, and vice versa. And Colonel Brandon, like, I love Colonel Brandon. One of the best male protagonists that I've ever read. Just a stand-up guy. He's the underdog in the story. I love underdogs. He's the nice guy. I love him so much. Okay, anyways, I'll stop. For this one, I watched the 1995, I believe, movie with Emma Thompson and Hugh Grant. And I love Hugh Grant, so that made it all the better. And it was a fairly faithful adaptation. I enjoyed it. I think I rented it on Amazon. I need to get it together. I have refilmed this twice now. I can't talk about Pride and Prejudice without getting excited. Okay. This is my number one Jane Austen book. I don't think it's any surprise to anybody who's heard me in my last videos talk about books. Love this book so much. Read it. I'm serious. Okay. So, I have like half of the whiteboard is just Pride and Prejudice. I could talk about this for hours. Okay. Gonna go through it as quick as I can. I strongly connect to Elizabeth Bennet. She's witty, she's independent, and I believe because of her parents' marriage, the state of her parents' marriage, which is not good, and a little bit because of her dad, she's very cynical, especially when it comes to romantic relationships. I feel like she is pretty cynical. So, I got you, girl. I understand that. And the thing that made me realize this was, well, I've read it twice before, okay? And then I decided to watch the 1995 BBC miniseries. And watching that, which, oh, that is such a good one. Like, if you want to watch a faithful adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, and you have 6 hours to spare, it's on Hulu. Watch the 1995 miniseries with Colin Firth, okay? Like, I'm not pitting any Pride and Prejudice adaptation against each other, right? Like, I don't want to do that, because I like the 2005 version as well. But the BBC miniseries, the 1995, is the most faithful and the best adaptation if you're looking to get every detail from the book, okay? That is what made me realize how cynical she was and kind of why she was cynical. And there's somewhere in the book that it talks about her dad and his passivity, and she comes to kind of like a realization that that's a problem. And I'm like, yeah. I just love Elizabeth. I love Lizzie so much, okay? The other thing about Pride and Prejudice is I feel like when one of the OG enemies to lovers books and there's no insta love, it's not necessarily a slow burn, because like for the first half of the book, like there's no burn really at all. I mean, Darcy admires Elizabeth, but Elizabeth can't stand him, so you know. But Darcy's also proud. He is proud. I mean, there's some people that argue that he's not a proud person, but he is. But he's misunderstood. And I think Lizzie's cynicism makes her willfully misunderstand him. Like, yeah, she misunderstands him all, like, a lot. And she chooses in some situations to misunderstand him, which is a flaw of hers. But he uses this, like, oh, I just love this book. So this is spoiler. So if you've never read Pride and Prejudice, you don't know the story, I would tune out. But if you have and you want to listen to me yap about it, keep watching. The first proposal, where Darcy proposes to Elizabeth the first time, she rejects him in strong language, okay? He doesn't just, like, get mad and ignore her and, like, you know, he uses that. Like, he admires her so much by this point that when she rejects him, he's like, she got a point. So, like, that is where his character development just skyrockets and, like, takes off. Elizabeth's character development, they both have really strong character development, but Elizabeth's is a little more gradual. So, after that first proposal, he writes her this long letter explaining himself for various situations, okay, that I won't go into detail. And then she reads the letter, and she's like, I'd never heard his side of the story before. Interesting. Starts wheels turning in her brain. Then she visits his estate with her aunt and uncle, and he's there. And she gets to see him at home, in a place that he's comfortable, right? In a place where he's used to it. He's the master. He, he's comfortable, just like anybody would be at their own house, right? Because this whole first half of the book, he was not at home. Okay, I think Darcy's kind of a little bit introverted, and that's the part she misunderstands. She also talks to some of his, like, staff and servants and tenants and people like that, and they have the highest regard for Darcy. Okay. Well, then her sister runs off with a not-so-great guy, and she thinks she's doomed, right? Well, Darcy saves the day, and I won't say anything else, but he saves the day, not primarily, I don't think, because he loves Elizabeth, but it's also out of, like, a sense of responsibility for the situation. And when you read Pride and Prejudice, you'll find out what I'm talking about. But he saves the day. He saves her family from ruin. But he also does it because he loves her. And I just love that. Like, he inconveniences himself. He puts forward all of this money that he didn't have to, because he loves her. Okay. And then you see Elizabeth's affections for him grow over time as she realizes that she was wrong about him. And then she sees him for who he truly was all along. Like, yes, he was proud, right? And he fixes that after her strong rejection of him. But she sees him for who he truly is. And I just love that too. Like, this is the perfect story for me. Like, I love Pride and Prejudice. And I think everyone should at least read Pride and Prejudice. And like I said, if you find it hard to follow the story because you're so wrapped up in the language, watch either the 2005 movie, that would be helpful, or watch the miniseries with Colin Firth, and I forget her name, Jennifer something. And I promise you the book will be more enjoyable. It's Emma, then Sense and Sensibility, then Pride and Prejudice so far. So we'll see what happens once I read the last 3 books. See where my rankings end up. I don't think anything's gonna beat Pride and Prejudice though. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.